There is something happening in your life right now that you cannot fully explain, and it has been building for longer than you want to admit. People who used to call you have gone quiet. Doors that once opened easily now feel sealed shut. Relationships that felt permanent have begun to loosen and drift away without any clear reason, without a fight, without a goodbye, just a slow and silent fading that leaves you standing in a hallway you no longer recognize. You wake up in the middle of the night, and you lie there in the dark with your eyes open and your chest heavy, and you cannot name what is pressing down on you, but you know something has shifted. Something in the atmosphere around your life has changed, and no one around you seems to notice it the way you do. You have been feeling restless in a way that rest cannot fix. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with your body. It is deeper than that. It is the kind of tiredness that comes from carrying something invisible, something enormous, something that was placed on you before you ever had a chance to choose whether you wanted it or not. And you have been asking yourself questions that you do not say out loud. Questions like, why does it feel like I am always starting over? Why does it feel like the ground shifts every time I find my footing? Why does it feel like I am standing just outside something I was meant to walk into, but the door will not open no matter how many times I knock? You have tried to explain this feeling away. You told yourself it was just a season. You told yourself you were overthinking. You picked up books. You changed routines. You pushed harder. You pulled back. And still the feeling remained, sitting in the center of your chest like something waiting to be understood. And the people closest to you, the ones you thought would see it, the ones you thought would say something that helped, they looked at you and they offered words that felt hollow, words that landed flat, words that made you feel more alone than silence would have. Because the truth is, what is happening inside you is not something they have the language to describe. Not because they do not love you, but because they were not given eyes to see what you are carrying. There have been moments, quiet ones, where something rose up inside you and told you that you were meant for more. Not in an arrogant way, not in a way that made you feel superior to anyone around you, but in a deep, quiet, almost aching way that felt like a memory of something you had not yet lived. Like your soul recognized a version of your life that your natural eyes have not yet seen. Like something inside you has been waiting patiently, faithfully, stubbornly waiting for the world around you to catch up to what heaven already knows about you. And then there is the matter of the ones who have been digging. But before we go there, before we pull back that curtain, you need to hear something that was spoken over you long before you arrived at this moment. Because the Word of God does not return void, and it was written for you, not just for a people and a time long ago, but for you in this moment, in this season, in this exact hour of your life. Isaiah chapter 54 verse 17 says this, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord." Read those words again slowly. No weapon, not some weapons, not most weapons. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. That is not a suggestion. That is not a hopeful wish. That is a covenant declaration spoken by the God who set the stars in place, and it was spoken over your life. Every scheme, every whisper, every plan that was made in secret against your name, against your future, against your peace, none of it was allowed to prosper without divine permission, and divine permission was never given. You are not here by accident tonight. You did not stumble onto this message because an algorithm decided to entertain you. Heaven orchestrated this moment with a precision that your natural mind cannot fully comprehend. God pressed pause on everything else and directed you here because there is something you need to hear, something that will begin to make sense of the restlessness, the losses, the sealed doors, and the quiet that fell over people who were supposed to be in your corner. If you feel something stirring in your spirit right now, if something in these words is landing in a place inside you that words rarely reach, I want you to do something right now. Type the number 111 in the comments. Just those 3 digits, 111. Let heaven see your agreement. Let the community of believers who are gathered in this space right now know that you are here, that you are present, that you are ready to receive what was always meant for you. You are not alone in this room. There are thousands who have sat exactly where you are sitting, feeling exactly what you are feeling, and they typed that number and something shifted. And before we go any further, if this channel has been a place where your spirit finds strength, where something in you wakes up and remembers who you are, I want to ask you to do 3 things right now, like this video, so that heaven's message can reach another chosen one who needs it tonight. Share it, because someone in your circle is in a season of confusion, and these words are meant to find them. And if you have not yet subscribed, do it now, because what is coming on this channel in the days ahead is not something you want to miss. The link to support this ministry is in the description and pinned in the comments below, and every act of generosity you pour in becomes a seed planted in the very season where your harvest is being prepared. Something in the atmosphere just shifted. Can you feel it? There is something the researchers have been quietly documenting for decades. Something that the most elite institutions in the world have spent enormous resources trying to understand, and it has everything to do with why you are the way you are, why you feel things more deeply than the people around you, why your mind moves differently, why your intuition fires before your logic catches up, why you sense things in a room before a single word is spoken. Science has a name for what you carry. Researchers call it gamma frequency, and it is not common. It does not show up in every brain scan. It does not activate in every mind under pressure. But when it does appear, when it surges through the neural pathways of a person who has been set apart, the results are extraordinary. Heightened perception, accelerated problem solving, deep creative flow, the kind of clarity that feels less like thinking and more like receiving. This is not metaphor, this is measurable. And the chosen ones, the ones who have always felt different, the ones who have carried that quiet knowing in their chest their entire lives, they register differently. Their brains are wired for something that the average mind was never designed to access at the level they can. But here is what the research also shows. And this is the part that nobody talks about. That frequency gets suppressed. Life presses in. Stress accumulates. Years of striving and surviving and pushing through begin to flatten the very waves that were meant to carry you into your destiny. The gamma frequency that once surged through you like a current begins to quiet. And when it quiets, the gifts dull. The intuition hesitates. The clarity fogs. And the chosen one begins to wonder if they imagine it at all. You did not imagine it. And there is a man who has spent more than 30 years proving exactly that. His name is Dr. James Rivers, and he is one of the most quietly significant neuroscientists of our generation. Trained at MIT, with decades of research connected to programs developed alongside NASA, Dr. Rivers dedicated his life to one central question. And that question was this: why do some minds operate at a frequency that others cannot access? And can that frequency be intentionally restored? He was not chasing a theory. He was chasing a pattern he kept finding in the data, a specific brainwave signature that showed up in the scans of creative geniuses, in the records of people who had experienced what could only be described as breakthroughs, and most strikingly, in the neural activity of children who had not yet been conditioned by the weight of the world, and whose brains moved with a freedom and a fluidity that adults had long since lost. What Dr. Rivers discovered over the course of thousands of days of research was that the brain is not fixed. It is not locked into the patterns that stress and time and disappointment have carved into it. The brain listens, it responds, it synchronizes, and when it is exposed to the right auditory frequency, something remarkable happens. The brain begins to match that frequency. The technical term is brainwave entrainment, and it means that sound, specifically calibrated sound, can guide your brain out of the suppressed, scattered, survival mode patterns it has been stuck in and into the elevated states of theta and gamma that are associated with creativity, with memory, with intuition, with the kind of mental clarity that changes the course of a life. Theta waves, which move between 4 and 8 cycles per second, are the waves of deep learning, of creative flow, of the kind of intuitive knowing that the chosen one has always carried as a gift. Gamma waves are higher still, the waves of peak cognitive performance, of the eureka moment, of the mind operating at the very top of its capacity. Children live in these frequencies naturally. Geniuses return to them deliberately. And Dr. Rivers found a way to make that return accessible to anyone. Not through years of meditation, not through expensive equipment, not through any kind of training or discipline that demands more from an already exhausted person. Just 7 minutes. 7 minutes of precisely engineered audio, listened to once a day, is enough for the brain to begin re-synchronizing with the frequencies it was always meant to operate in. 7 minutes because that is the window the research identified as optimal. Long enough for entrainment to take hold. Short enough that the brain does not resist or fatigue. And the results that came back from the people who used it were not small. They were the kind of results that make a scientist sit back in his chair and go quiet for a moment before he writes them down. A woman who had been struggling to hold her life together after a painful divorce, unable to focus, unable to remember things that should have come easily, unable to sleep through a single night, listened to the Genius Wave for 3 weeks and reported that her mind felt like someone had cleared fog she had stopped noticing was there. She went back to a business idea she had abandoned 2 years earlier, and within 60 days had her first paying clients. She said she did not know if it was the audio or something else, but something in her brain turned back on. A man who had been passed over for promotions at work for 4 consecutive years, who had begun to believe the story that he simply was not smart enough, used the Genius Wave daily for a month and submitted a proposal that his supervisors described as the most innovative thinking they had seen from his department in years. He did not take a course. He did not hire a coach. He gave his brain 7 minutes a day to remember what it was capable of. Another user, someone who had carried anxiety so long it felt like a personality trait rather than a symptom, reported that after consistent use, the constant noise in her mind began to settle, not because the audio told her to relax, but because her brain physically shifted into a state where the anxiety response no longer dominated. She described it as coming home to a version of herself she had almost stopped believing existed. More than 18,000 people have now used the Genius Wave, and the return rate sits below 4%. That number matters. It means that the people who try it come back and tell others. It means that the results speak loudly enough that refunds become an afterthought. It means that what Dr. Rivers built is not a product designed to impress for a moment and then fade. It is a tool that produces real and lasting change in the minds of real people living through real seasons of pressure. Now, I want to speak directly to something. I know some of you are sitting with a hesitation right now. I know some of you are thinking that $39 is not nothing. And I want you to know that hesitation is completely valid. You have spent money on things that promised to help and did not deliver. You have invested in your growth before and been left holding something that looked good on the outside and gave you nothing on the inside. That experience is real, and I am not asking you to ignore it. What I am asking you to do is weigh it against what is also real, which is this. The version of you that is 1 month from now, still carrying the same fog, the same suppressed frequency, the same muted intuition, costs far more than $39. It costs you opportunities you cannot name yet. It costs you clarity you do not know you are missing. It costs you the fullness of the very gifts heaven placed in you before you were born. The Genius Wave normally retails at $49. But through the link pinned in the comments below and in the description of this video, you can access it today for just $39. That is the only place this pricing exists. And when you purchase through that link, your investment is protected by a full 90-day money-back guarantee. 90 days, not 30, 90. That is 3 full months to listen, to experience, to allow your brain to return to the frequency it was designed to carry. And if at any point in those 90 days you feel it has not delivered, you receive every cent back without question. But I need to say this clearly, and I need you to hear it. There are counterfeit versions programs circulating on unauthorized websites and through third-party sellers who are profiting from copies that have not been properly calibrated and do not carry the precise frequency engineering that makes the Genius Wave work. Do not purchase from any source other than the link pinned in the comments and in the description. That is the only verified, original source. That is the only place where your purchase is protected by the guarantee. Anything else is a risk to both your investment and to the results you are seeking. And this price will not remain available indefinitely. The $39 access is time limited, and the number of licenses available at this rate is finite. When they are gone, the price returns to $49 and this window closes. If something in you is saying yes, if something in your spirit is recognizing what this frequency restoration could mean for the season you are walking into, do not wait. The chosen one who acts on divine timing does not look back and wish they had moved sooner. The link is waiting for you. Your frequency is waiting to be restored. You need to understand something about the way heaven sees your life, because the way heaven sees it is nothing like the way you have been seeing it from the inside of it. From where you are standing, the last few years may look like a series of losses. Lost time, lost relationships, lost opportunities that you watched pass by while you were stuck in a season that felt like it had no exit. From where you are standing, it may look like you have been falling behind, like the life you imagined for. Yourself has been moving further away rather than closer, like something keeps interfering every time you begin to build momentum. And from the inside, that interpretation makes complete sense, because the inside of a storm always looks like destruction. But heaven was never watching a storm. Heaven was watching a preparation. There is a process that happens in the natural world that most people have seen, but few people have truly understood in its deeper dimensions. When a seed is placed in the ground, something that looks like death begins. The outer shell of the seed, the part that gave it its shape and its identity in the world above the soil, begins to break down. It softens. It loses its form. If you could pull that seed back out of the ground in the middle of this process and look at it, you would not say it was thriving. You would say something had gone wrong. You would say it was deteriorating. You would say it had been buried and broken, and that whatever potential it once held was now in question. But the farmer who planted it is not alarmed. The farmer who planted it is watching for something entirely different. The farmer knows that the breaking of the outer shell is not the ending of the seed. It is the releasing of everything the seed was holding inside itself for the moment the conditions were right. The shell had to go. The familiar form had to dissolve, because what was inside could not grow and take root and push upward while it was still contained in the original casing. The death of the outer form was always the precondition for the life that was coming. What has been breaking down around your life is not your future. It is the outer casing that was never meant to contain you permanently. The relationships that faded were not rejections. They were releases. The doors that closed were not locked against you. They were sealed to protect the direction heaven was steering you toward from interference. The losses you have been cataloging as evidence that something is wrong are the very evidence that something is finally being allowed to go right in, a way that your previous season could not have supported. You have been in the ground, and the ground is not where you are going to stay. But here is what I need you to sit with, because this is the part that changes everything about how you interpret what has happened to you. Not everything that went into the ground with you went in by accident. Not everything that has been pressing against your life, suppressing your gifts, dimming your clarity, disrupting your peace, arrived as part of a neutral process. Some of what has been working against you has had a face. Some of it has had a name. Some of it has been deliberate. There were people around you who saw what was growing in you before you fully saw it yourself. And instead of celebrating it, instead of standing beside it, they made a decision. They decided that what was inside you was a threat to what they wanted for themselves, and they began to work against it, not loudly, not in the open, not in ways that left fingerprints that were easy to identify. They worked quietly, the way that fear always works when it dresses itself as friendship. They planted words in the ears of people who mattered to you. They offered opinions at the exact moments when your confidence was at its most fragile. They positioned themselves close and like love, and they used that position to quietly, consistently, and deliberately chip away at the foundation of what God was building in your life. You felt it. You may not have had words for it, but you felt it. There were moments when you walked away from a conversation with someone who was supposed to be in your corner, and you felt smaller than when you walked in. There were moments when a comment was made that was framed as concern, and you smiled and nodded, but something in your spirit registered it differently, registered it as a wound dressed in the clothing of care. There were moments when an opportunity slipped away and you blamed yourself because the alternative, the idea that someone close to you had something to do with it, felt too painful and too complicated to fully accept. But heaven kept the record, every whispered word, every strategically placed doubt, every moment of interference that was designed to look like coincidence. Every relationship that was poisoned by a version of the story about you that was never true. The God who numbers the hairs on your head and who knows the sparrow before it falls was present in every one of those moments, and he did not look away, and he did not forget, and he did not allow it to proceed further than his sovereign hand permitted. Psalm chapter 37 verse 7 through 9 says this: "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. That is the word for you tonight. Because here is the part that has been twisting something inside you, without you fully realizing it. You have watched the people who worked against you appear to prosper. You have seen them move forward while you felt held back. You have observed their lives from a distance and felt a confusion that was deeper than envy. A confusion that sounded like a question you were almost afraid to ask God. A question that went something like, if you see what they did, if you know what they cost me, then why does it look like nothing is happening to them and nothing is changing for me? That question is not a faithless question. It is an honest one, and God is not offended by honest questions from His chosen ones. He is moved by them. He leans in when His people come to Him not with polished prayers, but with the raw and trembling weight of what they have actually been carrying. And His answer to that question, the answer written in the pages of that psalm and confirmed in the record of your life, is this: I am not slow, I am precise. The timing of human observation and the timing of divine justice are not the same clock. What looks like delay from where you stand looks like perfect orchestration from where I am seated. Those who carry out wicked schemes are not beyond my sight. They are simply being given the full measure of the rope they chose to pick up, so that when the moment of reckoning comes, there will be no ambiguity, no argument, no claim that the judgment was hasty or unclear. What was done to you was seen. What was planted against you was known. What was whispered about you in rooms you were never invited to enter was heard by the one whose hearing reaches beyond walls, beyond distance, beyond the private chambers where people believe they are alone with their intentions. And here is the thing about the seed that was buried, the gift that was pressed down into the ground by the hands of people who thought they were ending something. Seeds do not need the approval of the ones who buried them in order to grow. They do not need the acknowledgement of the hands that pressed the soil down over them. They only need the right conditions. They only need the right season. They only need the warmth of the sun reaching down through the darkness and saying, now. That warmth has arrived. That season has shifted. And the thing that was buried in you, the thing those two people worked so hard to keep underground, is preparing to break through the surface in a way that will be impossible for anyone around you to overlook or explain away. The farmer has been watching. The farmer has been waiting. And the farmer knows that what is about to emerge from what looked like burial ground is not the same thing that went in. It is larger. It is stronger. It is carrying everything that the darkness of that season fed into it, transformed now into the substance of a harvest that neither you nor your enemies fully anticipated. Something is coming up out of the ground, and it is wearing your name. There is a moment in every harvest season when the farmer walks the field and sees something that was not visible the day before. A thin green line pushing up through dark soil. A signal so quiet that if you were not looking for it, you would miss it entirely. But the farmer has learned to watch for the subtle signs, because the subtle signs always precede the undeniable ones. What looks like nothing from a distance is everything up close. What looks like an ordinary morning in an unremarkable field is actually the moment the entire season has been building toward. That is where you are right now. This is your thin green line morning. And I want you to stay with me here, because what I am about to unfold in this section is the part of your story that your enemies never accounted for when they made their plans. They calculated against the version of you they could see. They measured your capacity by what was visible on the surface. They counted your resources, your connections, your confidence, your momentum, and they decided that what they were doing would be enough to keep you contained. What they never factored into their calculation was what heaven had already placed inside you before any of them entered your life. You have been carrying gifts that were deposited in you before you had a name. For you drew your first breath before anyone in your life had a chance to form an opinion of you. God reached into the substance of who you were being formed to be, and He placed things inside you that were never meant to be accessed by the version of you that was comfortable and surrounded and unchallenged. They were placed there for the version of you that would emerge from the pressure. They were stored for the season that required them. And the season that requires them is not coming. It is here. Think about the people in your life who always seem to carry a particular kind of resilience. The ones who came out of devastating seasons with something in their eyes that was not there before. Something deeper, something steadier, something that the people around them could feel but could not quite name. They did not acquire that quality during the easy years. They did not develop that depth during the seasons when everything worked and everyone showed up and the path was clear. They came into it through exactly the kind of grinding, confusing, isolating passage that you have been walking through. The burial was not punishment. It was the curriculum. And what you have been learning in that curriculum, even when it felt like nothing was being learned, even when it felt like you were simply surviving rather than growing, has been forming something in you that cannot be manufactured any other way. Patience that does not come from temperament, but from having waited on God through the nights when waiting felt impossible. Faith that does not come from theology, but from having held on when every visible reason to hold on had been removed. Discernment that does not come from observation, but from having been wounded by the very people you trusted and having learned, through that wound, to read beneath the surface of what people present to you. These are not small things. These are the exact qualities that the next chapter of your life is going to demand of you. And heaven, in its meticulous and patient wisdom, made sure you would have them before you were handed what is coming. Now I want to say something about the gifts that were targeted, because the people who worked against you were not random in what they chose to attack. Envy is never random. It is specific. It locates itself in the presence of something real, and it aims with a precision that confirms, even in its destructiveness, that what it is targeting has genuine value. You do not dig against something that does not matter. You do not invest the energy of sabotage in a person who poses no threat to the ceiling you have built for yourself. They dug against you because something in you threatened the story that they were telling about themselves. Your gifts made their limitations more visible. Your potential disrupted the hierarchy they had quietly arranged. Your presence in certain rooms created a discomfort that they could not resolve by growing themselves, so they resolved it by attempting to diminish you. And the specific things they went after, the relationships they poisoned, the opportunities they interfered with, the confidence they chipped away at, were not chosen carelessly. They were chosen because those were the load-bearing walls of the life God was building through you. But here is what they did not understand, and what you need to receive as a truth that settles deep into your bones tonight. You cannot destroy a divine assignment by attacking its carrier. You can slow the timeline. You can complicate the path. You can add wounds that will need healing and losses that will need to be grieved. But you cannot cancel what God has commissioned. You cannot bury a calling deep enough that heaven cannot find it. You cannot speak loudly enough over a life to drown out the voice of the one who authored it. What they buried was a seed, and seeds do not negotiate with the soil that surrounds them. They do not ask permission from the darkness to begin their ascent. They simply respond to the conditions that were always coming, the warmth, the water, the turning of the season, and they push, quietly at first. Then with an insistence that cannot be contained. Then with a force that breaks through whatever was placed above them. Not because the seed is aggressive, but because life, real life, the kind that was placed in you by the hand of God, was designed to rise. What is rising in you right now is everything they tried to keep underground. The creativity they mocked is becoming your most distinctive quality. The sensitivity they used as a weapon against you is becoming your greatest gift for understanding people. The faith they questioned is becoming the bedrock of a testimony that is going to reach people whose names you do not yet know. The dreams they dismissed are becoming the blueprints of a next chapter so specific, so detailed, so undeniably authored by heaven that when it unfolds, even the ones who doubted will not be able to offer an alternative explanation. This is the moment I want to gently remind you of something we talked about in the last section. The tool that Dr. James Rivers spent decades developing, the one that works with the natural frequency of a mind like yours, the chosen one's mind, the one wired for theta and gamma, for creativity and breakthrough and elevated perception. The genius wave was not designed for the average mind operating in average circumstances. It was designed for the mind that has been under pressure, that has been suppressed, that has been carrying more than it was designed to carry alone, and that needs a way back to the frequency it was always meant to operate in. If you have not yet looked into it, the link is pinned in the comments and in the description. Your mind deserves to be restored to the fullness of what God placed inside it. And right now, in this moment, I want to ask you something from a place of genuine care for what you are building and where you are going. If these words have been landing in places inside you that rarely get reached, if something in this message has been speaking to a part of your journey that you have not had words for until tonight, would you do something for me? Like this video, not as a gesture toward an algorithm, but as an act of agreement with the truth that is being spoken over your life right now. Share it, because someone in your world is sitting in a burial season right now, and they need to hear that what is in them is a seed, not a loss. Subscribe if you have not already, because the messages that are coming to this channel in the days ahead are going to be part of the restoration of a generation of chosen ones who are all emerging from the ground in the same season. And if this ministry has been a source of strength, of clarity, of the kind of spiritual nourishment that keeps you grounded when everything around you is shifting, the link to support what we are building here is in the description and pinned in the comments below. Every seed you plant into this space returns to you in a season that is closer than you think. The ground is breaking open, and what is coming up is glorious. There is a moment in the spiritual realm that has no sound, no visible sign, no announcement that echoes through the natural world. It is the moment when heaven reaches a verdict, when the patience of God, which is deeper and wider and more enduring than anything the human mind can fully comprehend, arrives at its appointed boundary. When the period of observation closes and the period of response begins. When the one who has been watching, recording, and holding the full weight of what was done decides that the appointed time has come and sets something in motion that no human hand can stop, redirect, or reverse. That moment has arrived for the person who worked against you. I want you to understand what I mean when I say a warning has been issued, because this is not the kind of language that belongs to human emotion or human desire for revenge. What I am describing is not the anger of a wounded person calling down judgment on someone who hurt them. What I am describing is the movement of a sovereign God who made a covenant with you before you were born, who watched every act of sabotage, every whispered poison, every deliberate interference with the assignment He placed on your life, and who has now, in His own timing and by His own authority, issued a final warning to the one responsible. This is what divine justice looks like when it begins to move. It does not arrive with noise. It does not announce itself with visible signs that the natural eye can track. It moves the way water moves beneath ice, quietly, steadily, with a pressure that is building in a way that the surface gives no indication of until the moment it does. And when ice breaks under the pressure of moving water, it does not break gently or partially. It breaks with a sudden and complete finality that leaves no question about what has happened. The person who dug against you has been living on borrowed time, and the account is coming due. I need you to hear this next part carefully, because it contains something that will protect your spirit in the days ahead when you begin to see this justice unfold around you. The warning that heaven has issued to the one who worked against you was not issued without prior opportunity. This is the nature of the God we serve. He is not a God who moves in judgment without first extending mercy. He is not a God who brings consequence without first offering the invitation to turn, to acknowledge, to repent of what was done. The warning is not the first communication heaven sent to the one who worked against you. It is the final one, which means the door of mercy was opened. The opportunity to make it right was presented, and that opportunity was not taken. This matters for you because it means that what is coming is not impulsive. It is not reactive. It is not the movement of a God who lost patience and swung blindly. It is the movement of a God who extended every grace, honored every opportunity for restoration, and then, when the full measure of refusal was reached, closed the ledger on mercy and opened the ledger on justice. What is coming is righteous, and because it is righteous, it is also complete. There will be no partial resolution here. There will be no ambiguous outcome that leaves you wondering whether things shifted or not. When divine justice moves with this kind of precision and finality, the evidence is undeniable. Now I want to speak to something that may be rising in you as you receive this, because the chosen one, by their very nature, carries a tenderness that can complicate the experience of watching justice come to someone they once trusted or loved. You may be feeling something right now that is not quite relief and not quite grief, but something in between. A strange and heavy mixture of vindication and sorrow. A part of you that wanted things to be different. A part of you that even now, even after everything that was done, wonders whether there was a version of this story where restoration happened rather than reckoning. That tenderness is not weakness. That tenderness is the mark of the kind of heart that God entrusts with great things. A heart that can carry pain without becoming bitter, that can watch injustice without becoming cruel, that can receive the news of divine judgment without celebrating it, is a heart that heaven has been carefully shaping for a purpose that requires exactly that quality. Do not apologize for the complexity of what you are feeling right now. It is evidence of the character that is being formed in you through this season. But do not let that tenderness talk you into absorbing what needs to be released. There is a difference between forgiving someone and continuing to carry the weight of what they did to you. Forgiveness is something you do for your own freedom. It is the act of opening your hands and refusing to let the offense become the thing that defines your posture going forward. It does not require that what was done to you be minimized. It does not require that the consequences of their actions be removed. It does not require that you pretend the wounds were not real or that the losses were not significant. It simply requires that you stop allowing what they did to have a permanent residence in the center of your chest. And here is what forgiveness makes room for, something that unforgiveness will always block. When you release the weight of what they did, you create space in your spirit for what God's about to pour in. And what He is preparing to pour into the space that has been cleared by this season is not a trickle. It is not a modest replenishment of what was lost. It is a flood. The kind of outpouring that makes what was taken look small in comparison to what is arriving. The kind of restoration that does not simply return you to where you were before the digging began, but carries you past it, into a territory that the version of you who existed before this season would not have been equipped to inhabit. Romans chapter 12, verse 19 says this, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay,' says the Lord." Leave room. That phrase carries more weight than it appears to on the surface. Leave room. It is an instruction step back from the place where you might be tempted to take the matter into your own hands, to speak what you know, to expose what was done, to engineer some version of justice that satisfies your own sense of what is fair. And it is also a promise, wrapped inside the instruction, that the room you leave will not remain empty. God does not ask you to leave room so that nothing fills it. He asks you to leave room so that He can fill it with something that no human hand could have produced. What you could have done in your own strength would have been limited by your own visibility, your own resources, your own understanding of what happened and who was involved, and what the appropriate response was. What God does when you step back and leave room is not limited by any of those things. He sees the full picture. He knows every layer of what was done, including the layers you never had access to. He knows the motivations beneath the actions, the fears beneath the motivations, history beneath the fears, and He responds to all of it, not just the surface, not just what was visible to you, but the entire architecture of what was built against your life. And His response is coming. The final warning has been issued. The account is being settled. The one who dug against you is standing in a moment they did not prepare for, facing a reckoning they cannot negotiate their way out of. And the God who defended you in the quiet years when no one else saw what was happening is now moving in a way that the whole world around your life will be able to see. You do not need to do anything. You do not need to say anything. You do not need to position yourself or prepare your response or craft the narrative. You simply need to stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord move on your behalf. It is already in motion. While justice moves in one direction, heaven is moving in another direction simultaneously. And that second movement is the one that concerns you most intimately right now. Because the God who issues warnings to those who worked against you is the same God who is, in the very same moment, reaching into the landscape of your life and repositioning you, not gently nudging you a few degrees to the left, not making minor adjustments to a plan that was already mostly on track, repositioning you completely, intentionally, with the kind of precision that only comes from a hand that sees the entire board, every piece, every path, every consequence of every move, and places you exactly where the next chapter of your story requires you to be. You may have already begun to feel this repositioning without having a name for it. There has been a stirring in you lately, a pull towards something you cannot fully articulate yet. A sense that the ground beneath your feet, which has felt so unstable for so long, is not actually crumbling but shifting. The way tectonic plates shift, not to destroy the landscape above them, but to form something new that could not have existed in the previous configuration. What felt like the ground giving way beneath you was actually the ground being restructured beneath you. The instability was never the story, it was the process. Repositioning always feels disorienting before it feels like direction. There is a period in the middle of it where you cannot clearly see where you came from or where you are going, where the old landmarks have moved and the new ones are not yet visible, where your usual ways of orienting yourself no longer work the way they used to. This is not lostness. This is the unavoidable middle of a significant transition. And the fact that you are in it, the fact that you are feeling the disorientation of a landscape that is fundamentally changed around you, is not evidence that something went wrong. It is evidence that something is going right on a scale that your previous coordinates were never designed to map. Think about what it means to be repositioned by heaven rather than by circumstance. When circumstance repositions you, it is reactive. It moves you away from something, away from danger, away from a situation that became untenable, away from a relationship that could no longer hold. The movement is defined by what you are leaving. But when heaven repositions you, the movement is defined by what you are moving toward. Heaven does not position its chosen ones in reaction to what the enemy did. Heaven positions its chosen ones in accordance with what was always planned before the enemy ever made a move. The enemy's interference did not change the destination. It only changed the route, and even the route was known and accounted for in the original design. Where you are being moved to is a place that requires the version of you that this season produced, not the version of you that existed before the digging began. Not the version of you that was comfortable and connected and operating in familiar territory. The version of you that came out of the burial, with roots that go deeper than anyone standing above ground can see. The version of you that learned to draw life from sources that the people around you are not yet aware of. The version of you that can stand in rooms where the pressure is high and the stakes are real, without being moved from the center of who you are, because you were moved, pressed, compressed, and formed in a season that most people did not survive with their faith intact, and you did. That version of you is exactly what the next assignment demands, and heaven would not be moving you toward it if you were not ready for it. Now, I want to come back to something that was laid as a foundation in an earlier part of this message, because it connects directly to what repositioning requires of your mind. We talked about the frequency that chosen ones carry, the gamma and theta brainwaves that are associated with elevated perception, with creative breakthrough, with the kind of intuitive clarity that allows a person to read a room, to sense an opportunity, to make a decision at the exact right moment. And we talked about how that frequency gets suppressed under prolonged pressure, under the weight of a season like the one you have been in. Here is why that matters in the context of repositioning. When heaven moves you into a new place, a new level, a new chapter of your assignment, your mind needs to be operating at the frequency that the new territory requires. You cannot navigate a higher level of calling with a mind that is still running on the suppressed survival mode patterns that the burial season carved into it. You cannot hear the subtle promptings of the spirit when the noise of accumulated stress is louder than the signal. You cannot seize the opportunities that the new position presents when your cognitive clarity is still fogged by everything the last season put you through. This is exactly why the work of restoring your frequency is not separate from your spiritual readiness. It is part of it. The Genius Wave, the 7-minute daily audio tool built on decades of neuroscience research by Dr. James Rivers, was designed for precisely this moment, in precisely this kind of journey. The moment when a person who has been through the ground is being called upward and needs their mind to be as restored as their spirit. 7 minutes a day. Theta and gamma entrainment. Your brain resynchronizing with the frequencies it was always designed to carry. Not as a replacement for prayer, not as a substitute for the spiritual work you are doing, but as a complement to it, a way of ensuring that the instrument through which heaven is going to work in this next season is tuned and ready. The link is in the pinned comment and in the description. If something in your spirit is saying that your mind needs what your faith is already reaching for, do not ignore that. The chosen one, who is being repositioned, deserves to step into the new territory with every dimension of themselves restored and ready. Now, the repositioning that is happening in your life is not only internal, though it begins there. It is also relational. The people who are being drawn into your life in this new season are not the same people who populated the last one, and they are not supposed to be. Heaven is deliberate about who stands beside its chosen ones in the chapters that carry the most weight. The relationships that are forming around you now, even the ones that seem small and unremarkable in their beginnings, carry a significance that you will only fully understand in retrospect. Pay attention to who is being placed in your path. Pay attention to who sees something in you without you having to explain it. Pay attention to who speaks to the version of you that is emerging rather than the version of you that the last season left visible on the surface. These people are not accidents. They are placements. Heaven-arranged, purpose-aligned placements that are part of the infrastructure of the chapter that is opening. Receive them. Do not hold them at the distance that the betrayals of the last season trained you to maintain. The discernment you developed through being wounded is there to protect you from repeating what was done to you, not to wall you off from the genuine connections that belong to your next season. There is a difference between healthy discernment and defended isolation, and the chosen one who is being repositioned needs to know the difference. Your voice is also being repositioned. The things you have been through, the losses you have carried, the questions you sat with in the dark, the faith you maintained when maintaining it cost you something real. These are not just your personal history. They are the content of a testimony that is going to unlock something in people who are sitting right now in the middle of what you just came through. Your story is not finished. It is not even at its most powerful moment yet, but the most powerful moment is coming, and when it arrives, you are going to need a voice that has been through enough to be trusted by the people who need to hear it. If what is spoken in this space has been part of what kept your voice alive during the season when everything in you wanted to go quiet, I want to ask you, softly and genuinely, to like this video and share it with someone whose voice needs to be reminded that it still matters. Subscribe if you have not already, because the words being prepared for the coming weeks on this channel are being shaped for exactly the season you, and thousands like you, are walking into right now. And if you feel led to sow into this ministry, the link is in the description and pinned in the comments below. What you give from this place in this season does not go unnoticed by the one who repositions his own. You are not where you were, and where you are going is worth every step it took to get here. There is something you have been wearing without knowing you were wearing it. Something that has been wrapped around you through every season of attack, every moment of sabotage, Every night when the weight pressing down on your chest felt like more than any one person should be asked to carry. You did not put it on yourself. You did not earn it through discipline or acquire it through spiritual achievement. It was placed on you before you ever faced a single one of the battles that defined your recent years, and it has never been removed, not by the ones who dug against you, not by the losses that accumulated, not by the seasons of confusion that made you question whether heaven still had your address. You have been armored this entire time, and I know that might be difficult to receive in light of everything you have been through, because if you were truly protected, if there was genuinely a divine covering over your life, then how do you account for the wounds? How do you account for the relationships that were poisoned, the opportunities that were interfered with, the confidence that was chipped away by people who were supposed to be standing beside you? If the armor was real, why did any of that land? This is one of the most important questions a chosen one can wrestle with, and it deserves an honest answer rather than a spiritual platitude that sounds comforting but leaves the real question untouched. So let me answer it directly. Armor does not make you invulnerable to contact. It makes you survivable through impact. There is a profound difference between those two things, and understanding that difference will change the way you interpret everything that has happened to you. A soldier in full armor still feels the force of a blow. They still absorb the impact. They may still be knocked back by the weight of what came against them. But the blow that would have been fatal to someone unprotected becomes something they can recover from, something they can rise from, something that leaves a bruise rather than a fatal wound. The armor did not prevent the battle. It ensured that the battle could not end you. Look at your own life through that lens for a moment. The things that came against you were real. The wounds were real. The losses were real. But you are still here. You are still standing, still breathing, still carrying your faith into another day, even when that faith has been tested in ways that would have broken a person who did not have what you have been given. The fact that you made it through is not a testament to your own strength alone, though your strength is real and should not be minimized. It is a testament to the covering that was on you in every moment when the force of what came against you should have been enough to finish the story. They could not finish the story, not because they did not try, not because the weapons they formed were not real or were not aimed with precision at the most vulnerable parts of what you were building, but because the covering over your life deflected the fatal blow every single time, absorbed the impact, and left you standing in the morning after nights that were designed to be your last. That covering has a name. It has a structure, and it is not generic or impersonal. It was fashioned specifically for you, for your assignment, for the particular kind of warfare that your particular kind of calling would attract. Because here is what most people do not understand about spiritual armor. It is not one size fits all. The protection that heaven places over a life is calibrated to the nature of the assignment that life carries. The greater the calling, the more sophisticated the covering. The more significant the territory you are being sent to occupy, the more intentional the protection that surrounds you as you move toward it. This means that the intensity of the warfare you have experienced is itself a form of confirmation. Darkness does not mobilize against ordinary things. It does not invest the kind of energy, the kind of sustained, targeted, persistent effort that has been directed at your life against someone who poses no threat to its agenda. The very fact that two people made it their business to dig against you, to interfere with your path, to work with the kind of deliberate focus that sabotage requires, is evidence that what is inside you was identified by something that recognized its significance long before you fully did. You were targeted because you matter. The armor was placed on you because what you are carrying required it. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 16 says this, "In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one." All the flaming arrows, not most of them, not the minor ones, all of them. The shield of faith that you have been holding, sometimes with both hands, sometimes with trembling hands, sometimes barely gripping it at all, because the weight of the season had taken so much out of you. That shield was designed to extinguish every single thing that was launched against you. And it did. Every arrow that was meant to end something in you was extinguished before it could accomplish what it was sent to accomplish. The fact that you felt the heat of the arrows as they passed does not mean the shield failed. It means the shield was in use. It means you were in the middle of real warfare. It means the battle was genuine. And it means the victory was also genuine, even when it did not feel like victory from the inside of it. Now, I want to draw your attention to something specific about the armor you have been carrying, because there is a dimension of it that the chosen one often overlooks in the middle of the battle. The armor described in the ancient text is not purely defensive. Yes, it covers. Yes, it protects, but it also positions. The soldier who is armored is not armored so that they can hide. They are armored so that they can advance. The protection exists not to keep you safe in a corner, but to keep you functional on a field. The covering over your life was never meant to be the end of the story. It was always meant to be the means by which you arrived at the beginning of the next one. And the next one requires you to advance. Not recklessly, not without wisdom, not charging forward without discernment into territory that has not been scouted, but forward, deliberately, faithfully, with the full weight of everything this season produced in you, pressing you in the direction of the assignment that the armor was always meant to carry you toward. There is something else about the armor that needs to be named. And it is the part that is most easily forgotten in the aftermath of a long and grueling battle. The armor does not only protect what you carry externally, it also protects what is being formed internally. The gifts that were targeted, the clarity that was suppressed, the creativity that was pressed down into the ground of the burial season, they were being preserved inside the armor even as the attacks came. What the enemy was trying to destroy was being guarded by a covering that the enemy did not have the authority to penetrate. This means that everything that was placed in you before the battle began is still there, intact, waiting. The armor did not just protect your survival, it protected the inventory of heaven that was stored inside you for the season you are now entering. The gifts are not damaged beyond recovery. The clarity is not permanently lost. The creative frequency that was suppressed by the pressure of the last season is not gone. It was held in trust inside the covering for the moment when the battle shifted and the season of emergence began. That moment is not approaching. It has arrived. And the armor that kept everything safe through the long years of warfare is now becoming the launch platform from which everything that was preserved is about to be released into the world with a force and a clarity that the burial season, for all its darkness, was actually preparing. You were never unprotected. You were never abandoned. You were never fighting alone on an open field with nothing between you and what was coming. You were covered. You are covered. And what was covered in you is about to be uncovered for the world to see. What is coming next in your life is not going to whisper its arrival. It is not going to slip in quietly through a side door while no one is watching. It is not going to be the kind of change that requires explanation or careful framing or a detailed account of the backstory so that people can understand what they are seeing. What is coming is the kind of undeniable, unignorable, impossible to explain away favor that lands in the middle of a life and changes the entire visible landscape in a way that leaves the people around you without a single credible alternative interpretation. They are going to see it, every single one of them. The ones who watched you struggle and said nothing. The ones who heard the whispers about you and chose to believe them rather than standing in your defense. The ones who measured your potential by the ceiling of your worst season and decided that ceiling was permanent. The ones who wrote you off quietly, not with cruelty necessarily, but with a kind of casual dismissal that stings in its own particular way, the kind that comes not from hatred, but from the simple failure to see what was actually there. All of them are going to witness something in the coming days, weeks, and months of your life that is going to require them to revise every conclusion they drew about you during the years when the ground was still covering what was growing. And the two who dug against you most deliberately, the ones whose interference was not passive or incidental, but active and sustained, they are going to have the most significant revision of all to make, because they invested something in trying to keep you down. They spent real energy, real intention, real strategic effort in the work of ensuring that what was in you stayed suppressed. And when what was in you rises, when it breaks through the surface with the force and the fullness that the burial season actually fed into it, the contrast between what they tried to produce and what God produced instead is going to be impossible for them to look away from. This is not about revenge. I want to be very clear about that, because the spirit of the chosen one is not a spirit of revenge and has never been, even in the moments when revenge would have felt entirely justified. This is about testimony. This is about the evidence of a God who does not abandon his own. This is about the kind of story that only gets written when someone goes all the way through the burial and come out the other side carrying more than they went in with. Your emergence is not a personal victory over the people who worked against you. It is a declaration of the faithfulness of the God who was with you in every moment they were not. But make no mistake about what that declaration is going to sound like to the ears of everyone watching. It is going to be loud, not because you raise your voice, not because you make an announcement or construct a narrative designed to highlight the contrast, but because the nature of what God is about to do in your life will speak for itself with a clarity volume that no amount of deliberate promotion could have manufactured. There are people in your life right now who have a mental file on you, a collection of assessments and conclusions and predictions about where you are headed and what you are capable of and how your story is most likely to end. That file was built during a season when everything visible about your life supported a limited reading, and they are holding that file as though it is the definitive document on who you are. God is about to rewrite the file, not edit it, not add a few promising footnotes to an otherwise discouraging document. Rewrite it from the beginning, with information that was always true, but was never visible from where they were standing because it was being held underground by a burial season that was never going to be permanent. The rewrite is already in process. The first pages are being drafted in the invisible realm right now, in the decisions being made about you in rooms you have not yet entered, in the opportunities being positioned for you, in seasons you have not yet reached, in the relationships being formed around you that are going to carry a weight and a significance that will only make sense when you look back on this moment from the other side of what is coming. Job chapter 8 verse 7 says this, "Though your beginning was small, yet your latter end would increase abundantly." Read that again. Your latter end. Not your middle chapter, not your recovery, your latter end. The final measure of your life, the sum total of what your story amounts to when it is fully told, is not determined by the size of your beginning or by the losses of your middle season. It is appointed to abundantly. Abundantly. That word does not mean adequately. It does not mean sufficiently. It does not mean enough to get by, or enough to silence the critics, or enough to feel like the suffering was worth it. Abundantly means overflow. It means more than the container of your previous expectations can hold. It means the latter part of your story is going to require a bigger frame than anything the earlier chapters suggested was coming. That is the word over your life right now. Not consolation. Not comfort for a person who is simply trying to make peace with a difficult season. A declaration of divine increase, so specific and so certain that it was worth being written down and preserved across centuries so that you could read it in this exact moment of your exact life. Now, I want to speak to the people who have been watching you from a distance during this season and have been forming their own private conclusions about what they were seeing. Some of them care about you and have been genuinely worried. Some of them have been curious in a less generous way. And some of them, the ones who were most invested in a particular outcome for your life, have been watching with a particular kind of attention, monitoring, checking, measuring to see whether what they set in motion was producing the result they intended. What all of them are about to see is going to disrupt every private conclusion they have been holding. The ones who were worried are going to exhale with a relief so profound it will move them to tears. The ones who were curious are going to find themselves unexpectedly moved by the magnitude of what unfolds. And the ones who were monitoring for evidence that their interference worked are going to encounter, instead, the living proof that it did not, that it never could have, that the only thing their digging accomplished was the preparation of the very ground from which your harvest is now rising. Your silence through this season was not weakness. Your continued forward movement, however slow, however costly, however much it looked from the outside, like barely surviving rather than truly thriving, was the most powerful thing you could have done. You stayed in the field. You kept your hands on the work, even when the work felt invisible and unrewarded. You maintained your faith even when maintaining it required more of you than you felt you had available. And heaven recorded every single day of that faithfulness and is now preparing to honor it in a way that is proportionate to what it cost you to sustain it. Right now, in this moment, I want you to type the words "my time now" in the comments below. Just those 3 words, "my time now." Not as a declaration of entitlement, but as an act of agreement with the word that heaven has already spoken over your life. When you type those words, you are not claiming something that was never yours. You are stepping into agreement with something that was always yours, but that this season temporarily obscured from view. Let the community of chosen ones gathered in this space right now witness your agreement. Let heaven see that you received the word, because your time is not approaching. It is not waiting around a corner that is still several seasons away. It is here. It is now. The file is being rewritten. The harvest is breaking ground. The silencing of every voice that doubted you is already written in the pages of a chapter whose ink has not yet dried, but whose words were decided long before the first person ever formed the first doubt about you. What comes next will not require your defense. It will speak entirely for itself. There is a thief that operates with a particular kind of sophistication. one that sets it apart from every other form of attack that has come against your life. It does not break down doors. It does not announce itself with noise or confrontation or the kind of obvious aggression that you can identify and respond to directly. It works instead through suggestion, through the slow accumulation of evidence carefully curated to support a single devastating conclusion, through the patient, persistent whispered argument that what was taken from you is gone permanently, that the authority you once carried has been surrendered, that the identity you were given before the battle began has been forged in someone else's name and transferred to someone more deserving, someone who did not go through what you went through, someone who did not lose what you lost, someone who arrived at their destiny without the detours and the delays and the long seasons underground that have marked your journey. The thief wanted you to believe your crown was gone. And in the hardest moments of the last season, there were days when that argument felt almost impossible to refute. But here is what you need to understand about the crown that was placed on your life before the world had a chance to weigh in on whether you deserved it. It was never in the possession of the ones who tried to take it. It was never within reach of the hands that dug against you. It was never vulnerable to the whispers, the schemes, the deliberate interference, the accumulated losses that the burial season produced. Because the crown of a chosen one is not a physical object that can be picked up and carried away. It is not a status that can be revoked by human authority. It is not a title that requires the agreement of the people around you in order to remain valid. It is a divine appointment, and divine appointments are not administered by human hands, and therefore cannot be rescinded by them. What happened during the season you have been walking through is that the crown was veiled, not removed, not transferred, not forfeited through failure or lost through the interference of the ones who worked against you. Veiled, hidden from your own sight and from the sight of the people around you in a way that served a purpose you could not have understood from the inside of it. Because there are things that cannot be entrusted to a person who is carrying them visibly. There are dimensions of authority and identity and purpose that must be developed in the hidden place before they can be worn openly, because the weight of them requires a formation that only the hidden place can produce. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he stood before Pharaoh. Joseph spent years in a pit and a prison before he stood in the palace. David spent years running from a king who wanted him dead before he sat on the throne that was always his. In every case, the crown was real before it was visible. The appointment was made before the ceremony. The authority was granted before it was exercised. And the period between the appointment and the ceremony was not wasted time. It was the most productive time in the entire story, because it was the time during which the person being prepared was being shaped into someone who could carry the crown without being destroyed by it. The hiddenness of your crown was not a sign that it was taken. It was a sign that you were being prepared to wear it in a way that would not break you when the full weight of it settled on your life. And the preparation is now complete in a way that earlier seasons of your life were not. The person you were before the burial began was genuinely gifted, genuinely called, genuinely marked by heaven for something significant. But that person did not yet have what they needed to carry the fullness of what was coming. They had the potential, they had the raw material. But the formation that the difficult season produced, the depth, the rootedness, the unshakable quality of a faith that has been tested at the level yours has been tested, that was still being developed. It is developed now, and the crown that was veiled during the development process is being unveiled in direct proportion to the completion of that process. This is why the revelation of your crown is not going to feel like receiving something new. It is going to feel like remembering something ancient, like returning to an identity that was always yours, but that the noise and the wounds and the confusion of the last season temporarily obscured from your own recognition. There will be a moment, and some of you have already begun to feel the early edges of it, where something settles in you that has not been settled in a long time, where the question of who you are stops feeling like an open wound and starts feeling like a settled answer, where the need for external validation of your identity begins to loosen its grip because something internal has been confirmed at a level that no external voice can reach. That settling is the crown being restored to its visible position. That quiet, deep, unargumentative sense of knowing is the divine appointment being made manifest in your own awareness before it becomes manifest in the awareness of the world around you. Heaven always confirms the identity internally before it demonstrates it externally. Because the demonstration that comes before the internal confirmation produces pride rather than authority, and pride is not a foundation that can hold what is coming. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 12 says this, "Return to your fortress, you prisoners of hope. Even now I announce that I will restore twice as much to you." Prisoners of hope. That phrase is one of the most extraordinary descriptions in all of Scripture of what the chosen one looks like from the outside during the season of waiting. A prisoner, confined, limited in movement, unable to go where they want to go, or do what they want to do, or be seen the way they want to be seen. And yet the confinement is not one of despair. It is one of hope. The thing that holds them in place is not defeat. It is the unrelenting, stubborn, costly, beautiful refusal to stop believing that what was promised will be delivered. To remain a prisoner of hope in a season that gives you every reason to abandon hope is one of the most powerful spiritual acts a human being can perform. And you have been performing it, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes barely, sometimes with trembling hands and exhausted faith, but performing it nonetheless. And the word spoken over the prisoner of hope is not sympathy, it is not consolation, it is restoration, twice as much, not equivalent restoration, not a fair exchange where what was lost is returned in kind, twice as much. The economy of heaven does not operate on the principle of replacement. It operates on the principle of multiplication. What was taken, what was suppressed, what was buried, what was interfered with, what was delayed by the schemes of the ones who dug against you, all of it enters into a divine calculation that produces not a return to zero but an advance into abundance. Twice as much means the relationships that were poisoned will be replaced by connections of double the depth and double the loyalty. Twice as much means the opportunities that were stolen will be followed by opportunities of double the significance and double the impact. Twice as much means the confidence that was chipped away will be rebuilt into an authority that is twice as grounded because it was forged in the fire rather than inherited in the comfortable years. Twice as much means your latter end, the full measure of what your story amounts to when it is completely told, will be so disproportionate to the losses of your middle season that the people who watched both will struggle to reconcile that the same person lived both chapters. The crown was never gone. It was always yours. It was placed on your life by a hand that does not reconsider, does not retract, does not revise its appointments based on the arguments of the ones who worked against you or the appearance of the seasons that pressed you low. It was veiled, and it is being unveiled. Right now, in this season, in this moment, as the words of this message are landing in the places inside you that have been waiting for exactly this confirmation. The crown is yours. It was always yours. And the head it was made for has been prepared, through everything you have endured, to wear it with a kind of authority that makes it impossible for anyone who sees it to question whether it belongs there. Wear it. It was made for you. You have made it to the end of something. Not just to the end of this message, though that is true as well, but to the end of a chapter in your life that was never meant to be permanent, that was always designed to conclude at exactly this kind of moment. The moment when everything that was buried has been named, everything that was hidden has been illuminated. Everything that was working against you has been exposed and accounted for, and everything that was placed in you before the battle began has been confirmed as still present, still intact, still carrying the full weight of the assignment it was always meant to fulfill. You did not arrive at this moment by accident. You arrived here because the God who wrote your story knew that you would need this word in this season, and He made sure it found you, not through coincidence, not through the random movement of an algorithm that happened to place this in front of your eyes at an arbitrary moment in an unremarkable day. Through orchestration, through the same precise, intentional, sovereign movement that has been ordered in your steps through every season you have lived, including the ones that felt the most disordered and the most abandoned and the most far from anything that resembled a plan. He was always the plan, and you were always in it. So, let me speak now to the whole of what you are carrying as you stand at this threshold. Because the threshold is real and the crossing of it is imminent. And there are things you need to take with you into what is coming and things you need to leave behind at the door of the season you are closing. Leave behind the weight of what was done to you, not the memory of it, because the memory serves you now as wisdom and as the raw material of a testimony that is going to reach people whose pain mirrors your own. But the weight of it, the daily carrying of the offense, the replaying of the moments that wounded you, the rehearsing of the injustice in the quiet hours when your mind has nothing else to occupy it, that weight was never yours to carry permanently. It was given to the one who said He would bear it, and He meant it, and the carrying of it yourself at this point is not faithfulness. It is a refusal of the gift of release that has been extended to you with open hands. Take with you the depth that the burial produced. Take with you the rootedness that came from being pressed into the ground and having to find your nourishment from sources that were not visible on the surface. Take with you the discernment that was sharpened by having been wounded by someone you trusted, because that discernment is going to protect the new relationships and the new opportunities of the coming season in ways you cannot yet fully anticipate. Take with you the faith that survived, the nights when survival felt optional, because that faith is not the fragile, untested kind that shatters under pressure. It is the kind that has already been through the pressure and emerged with a tensile strength that cannot be manufactured any other way. And take with you the frequency, the restored, elevated, God-given frequency of the mind that was always meant to operate in theta and gamma, in creativity and breakthrough, and the kind of clarity that allows a chosen one to perceive what others miss and to move with a precision that looks, from the outside, like extraordinary intuition, but is actually the natural result of a mind operating at the level it was designed for. If you have not yet taken the step of accessing the Genius Wave, the 7-minute daily audio tool that Dr. James Rivers spent more than 30 years developing, I want to encourage you one final time to consider it as part of the preparation for the season you are stepping into. your spirit, and be doing the work of restoration through everything this message has carried. Your mind deserves the same restoration. The link is in the pinned comment and in the description. And what waits on the other side of that 7-minute daily practice is a version of your mental clarity that the burial season suppressed and that the coming chapter is going to demand. Now, before we close, I wanted to do something that feels right for this moment, for you, for everything you have carried to get here. I want to pray with you, not a formal prayer, not words that are designed to sound impressive or to demonstrate theological sophistication. Just an honest conversation with the God who has been in every room you have ever sat in, including the darkest ones, including the ones at 3 in the morning when the weight was at its heaviest and the silence felt like absence. Father, I am standing here with someone who has been through more than most people around them will ever fully understand. Someone who carried their faith through seasons that should have broken it and held on to their identity through attacks that were designed to strip it. I am asking you now, in this moment, to let them feel the weight of your presence, the way they felt the weight of the pressure, fully, unmistakably, in a way that leaves no question about whether you are here. Restore what was taken. Multiply what was buried. Silence what was spoken against them with the testimony of what you are about to do in their life. And let the crown that was always theirs settle onto their life in this season with a permanence and a visibility that honors everything it cost them to get here. Let them feel tonight that they are not alone, that they were never alone, and that the road ahead is held by the same hands that held them through the road behind. In the name that is above every name, let it be so. If that prayer landed somewhere real inside you, if something in your chest shifted as those words went out, I want you to stay with that for a moment before you do anything else. Do not rush past it. Do not immediately reach for your phone or your next task or the next piece of content that the algorithm is ready to serve you. Sit in it. Let it settle. Let the presence that met you in this moment do the work it came to do. Because what just happened in the invisible realm over your life is worth the stillness of a few minutes of acknowledgement. The journey that this message has taken you on, from the unexplained symptoms of a life in transition, through the revelation of what was done against you, through the movement of divine justice, and the process of repositioning, through the uncovering of the armor you were always wearing, and the restoration of the crown that was always yours. This journey did not happen in a vacuum. It happened in the context of a community of chosen ones who are all navigating their own versions of this exact season, who are all emerging from their own burial grounds in the same appointed time, who all need to know that what they are carrying is real and that the God who placed it in them has not forgotten it or them. If this message was part of what you needed today, I want to ask you gently and genuinely to like this video, not as a gesture toward a number on a screen, but as an act of gratitude for a word that found you when you needed it. Share it with someone who is still in the middle of the burial, someone who needs to hear that what is in them is a seed and not a loss, someone whose crown needs to be named before they can remember it is still theirs. Subscribe if you have not already, because what is being prepared for this channel in the coming weeks is being shaped for exactly the season that you and thousands like you are walking into, and you do not want to miss what is coming. And if this ministry has been a place where your spirit found what it needed to keep going, where the words spoken here became part of the thread that held your faith together in the seasons, when everything else was unraveling, the link to support what we are building together is in the description and pinned in the comments below. What you sow into this ground in this season, you sow into your own harvest. And the harvest that is coming for you is not small. You came to this message carrying something heavy, and you are leaving it with something confirmed. The ones who dug against you have been warned. The crown that was veiled is being revealed. The frequency of your mind is being restored. The repositioning that heaven has been orchestrating is complete enough now for you to take the first step into the new territory with both feet. Step forward, chosen one. The season that was always written for you is not waiting any longer. It is here, it is now, and you were always meant for it. And so we arrive at the place where words must give way to the living of what was spoken. You have heard the truth about your journey, the attacks that came, the protection that held, the justice that is moving, and the crown that was never taken. Carry it forward not as information, but as identity. Let it change the way you walk into tomorrow and the day after, and every day of the extraordinary season that is opening in front of you. The world is about to see what heaven always knew. And what heaven always knew is that you were chosen. You are chosen, and you will remain chosen. Not because of what you have done, but because of who placed his hand on your life before you had a name, and has never, not for a single moment, lifted it. Go forward. The story is just beginning to get good.